This is the lecture video for 392 through 401. Starting off with John Brown and his raid on Harpers Ferry, Virginia. As we talked about before, he massacred people at Pottawatomie Creek during the Bleeding Kansas time period. He gained celebrity status in New England, and he decides that he's going to take a small army, his army, what he calls mostly his family members and a few others, and they're going to lead a raid on Harpers Ferry, Virginia, the arsenal there, and take the guns and trigger a slave uprising. He's able to sneak in, not too bad, but he can't get out with all the guns. I mean, the plan was doomed from the beginning. And troops under Robert E. Lee capture Brown and his followers. It's actually worse for Brown. All of his sons were there with him on the raid. They die, and he is shot, injured, and then they hang him. And it's the worst fears for the Southerners because the South could see this happening, and they don't want it to happen. And oh my gosh, I can't believe it's going to happen. Here's this mural in the Kansas State House that we talked about in class with John Brown looking crazy, a Bible in one hand, a gun in the other, his hands bloodied. He's stomping on the head of a dead Confederate soldier. Hell is breaking loose in the background with the North and the South lined up at each other. More dead soldiers and blood on the ground. I mean, this is at the Kansas State House. John Brown has a very murky history, whether or not he's a good guy or bad guy. And Kansas loves him because Kansas was a free state. But geez, I don't know if I'd want this in my state house for somebody who did the things that he did. But with the election of 1860, Northern Democrats unite behind Stephen Douglas, but the Southern Democrats don't want to win. They want to lose. They want to secede from the Union. Secession isn't there, but they just want to cause more problems. And they see the impetus, this being the presidential election of 1860. If they can get somebody who's anti-slavery elected into office, then maybe perhaps something will come of slavery, anti-slavery, whatever. So the Northern Democrats nominated Stephen Douglas, but the Southern Democrats nominated John C. Breckinridge of Kentucky. Republicans nominated Abraham Lincoln. Of course, we talked about that in the previous one. But the fourth party is the Constitutional Union Party, and they nominate John Bell. Now, the Constitutional Union Party is interesting. They back the United States and the allegiance with the United States, but they also want a strict enforcement of all national legislation, including the protection of slaves for the South. So Lincoln wins. Lincoln does not get one vote in the South because he's not on the ballot. I mean, that's just insane. You can see the sectional party lines are drawn between the North and the South, and it makes it very, very interesting to see that the North and the South, and if you would have combined the three bottom candidates, they would have had more votes than Lincoln. Easily. Lincoln would have lost a landslide. And so very, very interesting on how things would have been if there was only Democrats versus Republicans. Lincoln still may have had enough electoral votes. We don't know. But as soon as he's elected president in November, South Carolina holds a convention to secede from the United States. Okay, and they're the first one. South Carolina is the very first one, followed by Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas to form the Confederate States of America, as you see here. Okay, South Carolina in December, and then all the other orange states that follow. We'll talk about the other states here in just a moment. Buchanan being a lame duck president because he's been voted out, and Lincoln is there. He decides that he's not going to do much and just condemns secession, but he's not going to do anything about it. He's a Democrat. He doesn't want to have his hands dirtied by this. He doesn't want to have to worry about this. He wants to just be relaxed and let Lincoln handle all of this. So Lincoln has everything building up. John Crittenden of Kentucky throws a last-ditch Hail Mary effort to try to save everything, but he is unsuccessful. And because most senators are trying to get to the Confederacy from the South, are trying to get to the Confederacy and get out so they can get a position in the government there. Lincoln did not support compromise measures on secession. No, he's not going to compromise. He counted on Union settlement to keep the Upper South from seceding. Upper South is right here. The green and the purple states. They're all going to stay because they have an allegiance to the Union. So here's a chart with all the different events that kind of lead from 1846 to 1861 that will lead us to the Civil War. Lincoln vowed to uphold federal law. He's conciliatory. He understands. He feels sorry for the South, but Southerners want concessions, and he's not going to concede. Lincoln is not going to bend his knee to the South. He's not going to be a pushover. He's not going to be easy. It's just not going to happen. And so him not doing that, the South is uncompromising. Okay? They want Lincoln to compromise, and he won't. So we have a fort, Fort Sumter in South Carolina, and we have our troops there. We still are holding this, the Union, the United States, is still holding this fort. Well, they need supplies. So they call upon Lincoln to send supplies. And when Lincoln sends his supplies, they never make it there. And then the Confederacy starts bombarding Fort Sumter. When they bombard Fort Sumter, the soldiers that are in the fort basically make a deal. Let us leave with our lives. You can have the fort. Deal, easy peasy schmeezy. All right. So as soon as they do that and they allow these soldiers to leave, they take the fort. Lincoln calls upon the militia to rise up against the southern states. As soon as he does that, Arkansas, Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia are going to secede from the Union because they say they can't fight the South. So very quickly, as soon as he says raise up a militia to fight the Confederacy, those four states go. Now, Missouri, Kentucky, Maryland, and Delaware do not. They're all slave states, but they stay in the Union. And we'll talk more about that in the next chapter, in the next reading. But Lincoln walks a very fine, tight rope on whether or not to get rid of or and keep, and it's just on keeping Missouri, Kentucky, Delaware, and Maryland in the Union. They will not join the Confederacy. They will be the only four southern states who stay in the Union. And that's very key because, as you can see right here, this is where Washington, D.C. is. And if Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Delaware went to the Confederacy, then Washington, D.C. would be completely surrounded by the Confederacy. That's it.